systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What is going on, everyone? This is Sheets, and welcome to the continuation of the Survivor pool journey. We're going to be reviewing what we talked about for week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're going to talk about the process, talk about the results. We're going to take a look at a couple of the bigger pools out there and see what type of availability there is. Little bit of a tiny preview maybe of this coming week, and then tomorrow we're going to do the preview show, the premium show, where we are really starting to get into this, right? So some of these pools are already going into doubles starting now, and the Big Ship It Nation pool, 250,000 guarantee, is going to doubles in week 12. So we're really doing a great job with this, and this is the time where we spent this whole season learning how to set up your ticket, setting up your entry. Now we're at a time where if you have any of these bad boys left, you could start dropping some wood on people, so to speak. But we'll get into that. Let's review this past week. It was a very interesting week, and there were a couple of lessons to be learned that I talked about last week. Now, first things first is this idea that you always need to trust what's in front of you and trust the numbers. Okay? I said this all the way back from before week 1, that you don't want to get emotionally involved, you don't want to get attached to teams, and you don't want any of your biases to kind of overrun you. And one of the things that we talked about was this Denver play heading into last week. And we talked about it in the Discord, the idea that we had been saving Denver for weeks and weeks and weeks because we thought that they were going to be a smash play in week 10. And there were a couple of comments in Discord leading up to it and saying, you know what, we saved them all this time, that why would we not play them? So the point was this. We did end up saying they were the best play by a lot, but the process, you always need to look at what's in front of you. You need to reassess the numbers every single week. Just because you thought something was going to look a certain way doesn't necessarily mean it actually looks that way when you get there. So it's very important that even though you're planning and you're mapping and you're pushing stuff out and you think you know what's going to happen, you still need to deal with what's in front of you. And it's kind of like that idea that's like with DFS. Ugh, I played this guy every other freaking day. I mean, how can I not play him now? You know what I mean? Or I've owned this stock every freaking day, and now it's down to 60. Why wouldn't I want it now? Or something like that. Don't think of life that way. Don't think of opportunities that way. Think of what's in front of you and draw on all your experiences and all of your knowledge and continue to make decisions. Not just follow through on decisions you made in the past. Maybe, just maybe, those decisions need to be reassessed. All right. Maybe that's a little more life advice than usual. Nonetheless. So we ranked everything here by EV, and this is looking at last week. And this was a really, really good week to be part of this stream, okay? And a really, really good week to learn, to follow through on the stuff you've been learning this whole season. The first thing we looked at is these 2 high EV teams, or all these EVs above 1. And the first thing that we discussed was that Buffalo was a terrible play. That we thought that they had just way too much future value in week 14, week 18, week 16. And even though the EV was strong, this was one where you had to fade them. And sometimes the survivor gods reward you, and sometimes they punish you. And this was one where we were rewarded in fine style because, a good amount of people took Buffalo, and Buffalo went down to the thumbnail sketch Miami from this stream. Miami Dolphins. So that was just absolutely amazing. Couldn't have asked for it better. We explained it right. Hopefully most of you listened, and All the Buffalo people just got crushed. Detroit, even though they had good EV, first of all, it was good EV because probably very few people had them available, but some of them did. Okay. But we still thought that week 12 was way too big of a spot to pass them up now. So we got rid of that. Indianapolis, nobody had available, didn't make a big deal. We did agree that Denver was clearly the best play. Okay, singles, doubles, all throughout. It was a good combination of good EV and almost no future value. It was basically Survivor Nirvana, and you just had to play them all over the place. So if you had Denver available, that was the big recommendation, and hopefully everybody unloaded them because they weren't great, but this is the way Survivor works. They were great enough. Then what became tricky was what to do if you didn't have Denver somehow, and it's possible because there were times you could have used Denver. What if you didn't have Denver somehow? What's the next thing that you can do in both singles and doubles? We'll get the doubles in a second, but it was very hard to find a good play in singles, and I think at the end of the day we agreed on Seattle as being the next best if in fact you somehow didn't have Denver available. So thought that was probably the next one. And then I guess maybe, what did I say, Detroit would be the one after that. But we were presuming that most people had at least one of those available. So singles, we did very, very nicely. We got out of Dodge. With doubles, this is where, honestly, I think that we did the best, okay? Because, you have to some degree, trust these numbers. And heading into last week, so many people in this Discord channel and myself was just presuming that, you know what, we end up, if you don't have Denver, we're just going to play Carolina, okay? Because Carolina was a perfect play. They had almost no future value. They were going to be a decent favorite over the Saints. And that was just going to be the option to play in contest with doubles going forward. Okay, it made a lot of sense, but okay, as I've mentioned, when a team is 100% available, that information is also very available to everybody. So everybody was able to see that, and then when the pick percentages came out, the projections, and we actually ran the EV with our tool here, it revealed that Carolina was actually a terrible play. And I tried, and then we talked. You can rewind to last week's Wednesday. I said, listen, you're going to hate me for this because everybody wants me to recommend Carolina, but I just can't do it because they were like 0.86 when you compare that to Chicago with 0.89, with 0.99. And yeah, Chicago sort of had some future value in 15, but we talked about this quite a bit, and we felt as though Chicago was a much better play than Carolina. So that was a really big deal. And there was also some Cleveland talk. People wanted to play Cleveland. And while conceptually it makes sense, right? You play them, they're playing the stupid Jets, right? They're probably never going to be used again. Maybe I'll just close my eyes and get through. But the numbers just didn't tell that story. The numbers indicated that they were just going to be a fishy play at 0.82. So the real benefit really from last week was avoiding these two. Was avoiding Carolina, avoiding Cleveland. They both lost. Okay, Carolina took out a whole bunch of people, and if you somehow closed your eyes and took the Chicago, okay, then you somehow advanced in miracle fashion. Okay, against the Giants. Giants have been known for that this year, is letting people advance in miracle fashion. The Cowboys in week 2, that ridiculous game. The Broncos miracle, and now the Bears miracle. So the Giants have been very, very favorable to Survivor pool players. So that was really, really good stuff. Sometimes our recommendations just don't work, right? They just don't lose. That's the way it goes. But it all played out exactly the way we wanted, and good on us. Okay. Let's take a look at some of these big pools and see where we are here. So this is the big splash. So this one is down to 961 people from, a ton. And they're going into doubles week 11. And we're going to talk about how to attack that tomorrow. But it's, if you go to Splash, you can look at these availability report. Because what's going to happen, unfortunately, or fortunately, or whatever, is that the publicly available pick percentages are going to start to be awful because all these pools have different rules. And if the pick percentages are based on single entries, you're not going to want them for this. And likewise, if the pick percentages are available, are more weighted towards doubles, then you're not going to want those for your singles. So we're going to have to kind of customize these and use a little bit of savvy to make good ownership projections. So we're going to spend a little bit of time on that tomorrow. But just to see, like, you know, a bunch of teams, you know, are a little bit rare, like the Rams, who we've saved, you know, maybe saved the Chiefs in doubles, right? So the Bills. So we've got some stuff that we could drop on some people, you know, and we'll talk about that. But again, just to take a look, there's what, 16, what did I say, 800 people left, something like that. Let's do this again. Availability report. There's 961 left from 18,000. Okay, so it's good stuff. That's good stuff. Now let's take a look at the Ship It Nation one. The Ship It Nation contest, that's not in doubles yet, but it's getting there. You know, this one is down to 467. Okay. So what we're going to have to talk about tomorrow is how do we want to model this? I mean, do you guys think that 467 entrants are going to be able to navigate doubles all the way to the end? Like, do we really need to worry about week 18, for example? And these are going to be like some pretty cool discussions that we're going to have tomorrow. But you'll see, same thing. Like, if some of these teams that we've been saving are looking pretty freaking rare, so it's going to be very tempting to drop these EV bombs on people when we can. But we will talk about all of that. Oh, one other one I may as well show you guys. This one I can't really talk about specifically because we got one of our guys in it also, so that's kind of not fair. But this one is the 5K, whatchamacallit, where is this thing? This is the 5K high stakes, and this one, we lost some Carolinas and whatever. This one's down to 19. And this one I'm actually in, so I can't really comment too much on this. Maybe we'll play Pittsburgh. Who knows? But I can comment on like single entry kind of in general, you know. But that one's down to 19. Title's in that one too. And as I mentioned last week, and we'll talk about it, he's got a much stronger entry than I do because he didn't use Baltimore yet. And I think we're pretty much the same on everything else. But I'll talk about single entries in general. I don't know if I can talk about specifically that contest because it's not that it's unethical for him. It's unethical to the rest of the pool, really. It's almost like collusion if we talk about that type of stuff. So in any case, we'll talk about that tomorrow. We'll talk about other stuff that we're in. We'll talk about, well, you want to take a look real quick and see what's up? Let's see. I wonder if everything was set yet. Just for funsies. Let's just take a look. Did it? I don't think so. Let's just see. Sometimes it might take another hour or so. Yeah, so it didn't come in. Oh, look at this. It did. Wow. So week 11 has now been updated. Although this map has not. But that's okay. We'll deal with the map later. But it looks as though we're certainly going to have to redo these pick percentages because, again, this is based on the entire like pool community. So we'll have to tailor these to specific contests. But we'll do that tomorrow. But I will say it's probably going to be some variation of New England. Oh, these are going to be the top projected teams, right? New England, Baltimore, Houston, Green Bay, Buffalo, Pitt. I mean, I think this is probably the big pool of teams to consider. And then if you really want to drop, you could play like Atlanta, Dallas, KC, Minnesota, whatever. But maybe for doubles, we'll talk about maybe those combinations or whatever. But That's what we're going to do tomorrow, and that's it. Good luck, everybody.